For my birthday, I invited 87 people. Only 5 showed up because my mom and my brother secretly told people not to come and turned it into my brother's I love you anniversary. I didn't yell, I did this instead. 3 days later, my brother's girlfriend was dating me. You ever stand under a balloon arch? You never asked for just watching the minutes crawl past like they're trying to apologize for existing. That was me. 6:47 p.m. Still just 5 people had shown up. 6, if we're being generous, and counting the DJ who looked like he was plotting revenge on a particularly stubborn speaker cable. I kept pretending to check the time, pretending like I wasn't counting each second as proof. Proof that I'd done something wrong, or worse, nothing at all. My mom caught my eye from the buffet table and gave me one of those enthusiastic thumbs ups only a mom can give when she knows you're spiraling. She mouthed something like, looks great, like we were on opposite ends of a concert instead of a mostly empty banquet hall. My dad. He was sitting near the back like he'd wandered into a dentist's waiting room by mistake, quiet chewing finger food like it was a form of penance. My younger sister had been glued to her phone since she walked in occasionally laughing at something on TikTok. And then there was Jaime, my brother, pacing near the bar and AirPods talking loud enough that I knew it wasn't important. Just loud enough to remind me who people usually showed up for. I invited 87 people. I made a list, sent formal invites, booked a nice venue, paid for catering, lighting, even fairy lights. A real party. One for me, my first. Not a casual get-together, not pizza and a movie. A real birthday party, for once. Mom and Hammy had offered to help plan. I should have known better, but I wanted this to be special. If I made it official, sent the invites, made the space, lit it up, maybe I'd matter. Maybe I'd finally feel like the main character in my own life. Maybe everyone's just late, I muttered mostly to myself. Mom approached with 2 plastic cups of soda and that signature tight-lipped smile. Told you 5:30 was too early to start setting up, she said, handing me a cup. No one wants to be the first to arrive. It's almost 7, I said. She laughed too quickly. Fashionably late is still a thing, you know. She looked around like she was seeing the venue for the first time. It's a lovely space, though, very flexible. Could be used for anything, really. Sure, I said, like a birthday party. She didn't respond, just patted my arm and drifted off toward Jaime. At 7:05, I finally gave in and checked my phone. No messages, no calls. I pulled up the guest list. 87 names staring back at me like a bad joke. Sure, some were long shots, but most weren't. These were people I'd shown up for. Helped move apartments, fixed leaky sinks, dropped off soup when they were sick. Dan from work, Lydia, friend of a friend. People who'd said, let me know when your birthday is. We'll totally come. I texted them both. Me, hey, just checking if you're still coming. No worries if not. Dan replied 10 minutes later. Dan, hey man, thought it was more of a family thing now. Your mom said it was small and private. Hope it's a good one, though. Lydia never replied. Behind me, Jaime laughed at something on his phone. My sister leaned over to look. I caught a glimpse of the screen, a picture of Lexi, his girlfriend, holding a tiny cake with a glittery 1 candle on top. Caption 1 year, since we said I love you. I blinked. No way. I turned to look at my dad. He was nursing a glass of wine, still committed to the cheese tray like it was an exam. Cheer up, son, he said without looking up. Not everyone's the social type. I nodded, poured myself some of the watery punch. Sure, I mumbled. Quiet ones. The dependable type. Ghosts that plan parties no one remembers. From behind me, Mom chimed in again. People have lives, she said. I hadn't heard her come up. Not everyone can drop everything for a party. I gave a month's notice. She shrugged. Still, maybe it's just not your season. She sipped her soda, added gently. Some people just aren't magnetic. And that's okay. I didn't respond. At 7:30, she brought out the cake. Not the one I ordered. I didn't notice at first. I was still glancing at the door every 20 seconds like I could will people into existence. But around 7:42, I wandered over for a napkin. That's when I saw it. Gold icing, swirly letters. Love always wins. Jaime and Lexi. I stared at the cake like it might rearrange itself if I waited long enough. Like I was misreading it, but I wasn't. No one told me. No one asked. They used it. Used my venue, my money, my name, my party, and I funded the whole thing. I must have stood there for a while because Mom appeared again, looked at the cake, then looked at me. Smiling, she said, well, someone should enjoy the space. Like it wasn't the most backhanded thing anyone could have said in that moment. Then she just walked away, humming. I moved to the farthest table in the room, sat down, didn't say a word. The DJ was still playing like there was a crowd, like the party might turn around any second. At least he showed up. At 8:01, Lexi arrived. White dress, small bouquet. She walked in like it was an engagement party and not the world's saddest ambush. She kissed Jaime, took pictures in front of the fairy lights, smiled like this had all been lovingly planned. And I guess it had, just not by me. I didn't speak. I didn't shout. But 2 days later, Jaime was single. I stayed seated after Lexi showed up. 30 more minutes, maybe longer. Just sat there, watching. She kissed Jaime, handed him the bouquet. They posed by the balloon arch I didn't want. Took selfies under those fairy lights I paid extra for. Lexi twirled in her dress while Jaime laughed like this was the climax of some rom-com they'd been starring in all year. Meanwhile, I sat quietly, at the furthest table. The one I'd picked during setup, thinking someone's grumpy uncle will probably want to sit here. Funny how I became that grumpy uncle, except I was the one who paid for the event. I stared at the napkins, each one folded by hand the night before because the caterer had forgotten to include them, and I wanted everything to look just right. You can love people who hurt you. That's the messed up part. You can keep loving them while they stomp all over you with smiles and selfies. You can convince yourself they don't mean it, that it's just a misunderstanding, that if you explain yourself better, they'll get it. But eventually, if you're lucky, there's one moment, a click. When the picture comes into focus and you finally realize this isn't a misunderstanding, this is the design. You were never meant to be seen. I didn't storm out. No dramatic exits, no screaming. I didn't even text a friend to vent. I slipped out through the side exit behind the buffet table holding a half-deflated balloon and a bottle of water I didn't even want. No music followed me. No one called after me. I just left. When I got home, I peeled off my dress shirt like it weighed 20 pounds. Sat in the dark with a glass of lukewarm tap water and listened to the fridge hum. I didn't turn on the TV. Didn't scroll my phone. Just sat there, still wearing the wristband from the venue like a sad joke only I would get. Eventually, I opened my laptop, wrote the letter. I was careful, professional, clear, bullet points. No accusations, no emotion, just facts. Attached the receipts, venue deposit, catering invoice, DJ contract, the PayPal screenshot from when I paid extra for the custom backdrop. You know, the one that now featured in every single photo of Jaime and Lexi kissing. The email was addressed to 3 people: Mom, Dad, Jaime. Subject: request for reimbursement. Body: since the event I personally funded was intentionally repurposed without my knowledge or consent, and since invited guests were misled or redirected from attending under false pretenses, I am formally requesting reimbursement in the amount of $3,460. That was the calm version of what I really wanted to say. What I wanted to say was, you hijacked my birthday, gaslit me while eating my catered food, took selfies under a banner I paid for, and then kissed like I didn't exist. So here are the receipts. I figured if I was going to make a scene, I might as well do it with bullet points. The call started 2 hours later. Mom first, 5 back-to-back missed calls. Then Jamie, then Dad. I didn't answer. I let them fill up my voicemail inbox, shouting into a void. Around noon, the family group chat lit up the same group that only ever buzzed for half-baked holiday plans and grainy kid photos. Mom. Apparently, Ben is demanding money for his own birthday now, because he didn't like the guest list. Jaime guessed it's easier than admitting no one showed up. I stared at my screen for a long moment, and then I typed, "Me, you told them not to come." Silence. "Me, again, you sent out new instructions. Told people it was a private family event, or to come later for the I love you party with Lexi." Still no reply. Then Dad chimed in, trying for calm dad. "I understand you're upset, but life doesn't always go the way we plan. No one made people skip your party." So I posted a screenshot, forwarded message from one of my coworkers, sent 2 days before the party. "Coworker, hi there, just a heads up. Ben decided to scale down the event to close family only. He's been feeling overwhelmed. Hope you understand, my mom." That cracked something open. Aunt Julie chimed in. Aunt Julie, wait, I got that message too. Then cousin Steve, we were told to come after 8 for Jamie and Lex's celebration. Then the flood started. Another screenshot, another invite. "Join us for a private toast, 1 year of love, Jaime and Lexi." I didn't have to explain anymore. They did it for me. The next morning, Lexi showed up at my office. No warning, no call. Just opened the door and stood there like the room was suddenly foreign to her. She didn't say anything at first. Just looked at me like I was a puzzle someone had mixed with the wrong box. Finally, she asked, "Why didn't you tell me it was your party?" I looked up from my screen. "Because I didn't know it wasn't. Not until I got there." She blinked. "You didn't agree to the toast, the cake." "I ordered a different cake," I said. "Mine didn't have your names on it." Her face drained of color. "I thought she started. I thought you knew. I thought we were celebrating with you." "You were," I said, "just not for me." She sat down slowly, didn't speak for a long time. And then, like a trapdoor opening beneath me, I said it. "I've lost a lot of things to Jaime," I said, "but you, that one hurt most." She looked at me, eyes wide. "What do you mean?" So I told her about when I was 16, about how she'd been my best friend since we were 6, about the scooters and the juice boxes and the sarcastic jokes that made boring days bearable, and about the dinner table how I'd said quietly, "I think I might ask Lexi out," and how Jaime laughed like I'd said I was moving to Mars, how Mom said she's very pretty, honey, with a tone that meant don't try. So I didn't. We stayed friends. Went to different colleges, drifted, then fate or whatever brought her back into my life. Same firm, different floors, break room lunches, inside jokes, familiar warmth. I thought maybe, just maybe this was a second chance. So I told Jaime, because I'm a trained idiot. We were at our parents' place. I told him I was thinking about asking her out. He said, "Let me talk to her first. Feel it out. You only get one shot, right?" I nodded, believed he had my back. 3 weeks later, they were dating. He never apologized. Not even a little. "It just happened," Jaime said, "like falling into your brother's romantic interest was the same as tripping over a rug." "She obviously didn't think of you that way," Mom added later, with that gentle, dismissive tone she reserved for every time I dared to want something. And just like that, they moved on. No fallout, no awkward family dinners, no apology, just silence. The kind that tells you it's not worth making a fuss. The kind that trains you to swallow it whole and smile anyway. After that, I pulled back. Stopped going to every family dinner, ignored more calls than I answered, but I still helped. I still showed up in the background. Paid their electric bill 4 times last year. Quietly covered the plumbing repair when Dad's card got declined. Brought groceries every month without being asked. No one ever asked if I was okay. No one asked if I could afford it. But they always thanked me in the same way, "You're so reliable." As if that was the prize. As if being the guy they could count on to mop up their messes made me important. The birthday party that was supposed to be different. I planned it like it was my wedding. Booked the venue, organized the catering, made a playlist, chose fairy lights that gave the room a glow like a soft hug. Sent invites to 87 people. People who said over and over again, let me know when your birthday is, we'll totally catch up. I told myself it didn't have to be magical, just mine. And when the room stood empty except for family who didn't even come for me, I tried to justify it. Maybe bad traffic. Maybe people forgot. Maybe it was me. But then Dan's message came through. My coworker said my mom told him the party was now a small family thing. Said she'd made it sound like I was overwhelmed. I wasn't overwhelmed. I was erased. And then I saw the cake, Love Always Wins, Jaime and Lexi. And it didn't even hurt the way I expected. It didn't feel like betrayal. It felt like confirmation. They didn't forget me. They just replaced me. After Lexi left my office that day, after I told her the whole truth, she didn't say much. Just sat there like someone had handed her a memory she didn't know was hers. Jesus, she whispered. Yeah, I said, that's about right. She stood up and walked out. Didn't slam the door, didn't text later. Just left. The next day, Jaime called. I didn't answer. He called again and again and again. Fifth call I picked up. What the hell did you say to her? He snapped. I said nothing. She broke up with me. Still nothing. You've been trying to sabotage me for years, haven't you? I actually laughed. You did this all by yourself, I said. Then I hung up. Blocked his number. Went into my banking app, disconnected the recurring payment from my parents' internet, canceled the backup credit card I'd left on file just in case. Removed myself from the family Netflix plan. That last one felt surprisingly satisfying. I didn't text anyone to explain. I figured they'd notice when the Wi-Fi cut out and the buffering started. Lexi didn't text that day either, or the next. And honestly, I didn't expect her to. What was there to say? What apology could fix that kind of tangled history? But I couldn't stop thinking about her face. That combination of heartbreak and horror sitting in my office. I'd seen it before in the mirror. Too many times to count. The next morning, a text from my mom. Mom, we need to talk. Then another. Mom, don't do anything you can't take back. Too late. I hadn't burned anything down. I didn't post rants. Didn't slash tires or scream in parking lots. I just told the truth. Turns out the truth can be loud on its own. That night around 8:30, there was a knock at my door. No warning, no text. I answered it in sweatpants holding a fork halfway through eating cold lasagna straight from the container like a divorced raccoon. Lexi stood there. Messy bun, hoodie, barely any makeup, hands in her pockets, eyes uncertain. I'm not here to fight, she said quickly. I just needed to talk to someone who wasn't him. I stepped aside. She came in. We didn't do the whole awkward silence thing. She sat on the couch. I sat next to her. She stared at the floor like it owed her an explanation. I broke up with him, she said quietly. I figured I said. Right after we talked. I didn't say anything. Just waited. I don't think I was in love with him, she continued. I think I just wanted it to feel right. Wanted to believe if I worked hard enough, it would feel real. I nodded slowly. She turned toward me. You should have told me back then. I didn't think it would matter, I said. You seemed happy. I wasn't going to be the guy who said, hey, I liked you first. Like it was some raffle ticket I'd been holding on to. Her mouth twitched, almost a smile, almost. Then she asked, do you ever think about what would have happened if you had told me? All the time. We sat there in that strange, heavy quiet. The kind of quiet that only exists between people who have history but missed the middle chapters. She looked over again. I'm not saying we jump into anything. I don't want to mess it up. But maybe we could get dinner sometime. Just us. See where it goes. I smiled. You're asking me out. I'm asking if you want to try. Yeah, I said, I do. She kissed me, and for a little while we didn't talk. Didn't need to. We didn't mean for anything else to happen that night, but it did. It wasn't messy. It wasn't complicated. It was soft, familiar. The kind of quiet that comes when you've known someone since scooters and juice boxes. When they've seen the worst of you and still sit close. Afterward, she curled up beside me wearing one of my old t-shirts. Like she'd always belonged there. And for once, I didn't feel like I was borrowing something that wasn't mine. That lasted about 10 minutes. Then at 11:42 p.m., there was another knock. I checked the peephole. Jaime. I opened the door because apparently part of me still hadn't learned. He didn't even say hello. You haven't been answering your phone. Jaime snapped, shoving past me like this was his apartment. Then he saw her. Lexi. Wearing my t-shirt, barefoot, standing in my hallway like she belonged there, which at that point she kind of did. And his whole face changed. The mask cracked. Whatever cool composure he walked in with gone in an instant. All that was left was disbelief and something darker. Are you kidding me? He barked. Lexi didn't move. She didn't flinch. She just looked at him. Her posture calm, her expression unreadable. I'm not your girlfriend, she said quietly. You don't get to talk to me like that anymore. That hit him harder than anything I could have said. You're screwing my girlfriend. He growled at me like I was the villain in some soap opera. She's not your anything, I said, stepping forward. She broke up with you. That was 2 days ago. He exploded eyes wild. And now would you just pick up the pieces? Like some secondhand charity case. She's not a thing, I said, trying hard to stay calm, and I didn't pick up anything. She came to me. That's when he hit me. It wasn't dramatic. There was no Hollywood buildup, no slow motion fist. It was fast, clumsy, and it hurt. Caught me right under the eye. My head snapped sideways. I stumbled back against the wall, more stunned than anything. Lexi shouted something. I didn't catch it, but suddenly she was between us, arms out like a human shield. You need to leave, she said, her voice shaking but clear. Jaime pointed at her. You think this is better? You moved on this fast. Lexi didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her silence said it all. He turned back to me, breathing hard. This is what you wanted, right? You've been jealous of me your entire life. You finally get to take something from me. I pressed my hand against the swelling under my eye. I didn't take anything I said. She made her own choice. And that more than anything seemed to rattle him. You're not supposed to win, he muttered. Then he just left. No goodbye, no apology, no door slam, just gone. Lexi helped me into the kitchen and grabbed some ice. She didn't speak for a while. Just held the pack gently against my cheek like she was patching up more than a bruise. That was the first time he ever scared me, she said finally. I nodded, my jaw clenched. He's scared me my whole life, I muttered. She looked at me not with pity, but with something heavier, understanding. I don't feel guilty anymore, she whispered. I thought I was betraying him. But that wasn't love. That was ownership. She stayed the night again. Not because we didn't know what came next, but because we did. The next afternoon around 3 p.m., my parents showed up. Together. Like they were co-captains in some family damage control squad. I opened the door slowly, let them in without a word. They walked in like they owned the place. We need to talk. My mom said, her arms crossed her jaw, locked tight. I mirrored her stance. You have no idea how much damage you're causing. She continued, eyes darting to the ice pack still on the counter. Your brother is devastated. He hit me, I said. My dad rolled his eyes. He's upset, he said flatly. You ambushed him. Lexi stepped out of the bedroom then, still wearing my hoodie. Barefoot, calm. My mom's face twisted. So it's true, she spat. You stole his girlfriend. I couldn't help it, I laughed. Loud, bitter. I didn't steal anything, I said. She left. Then she came here. You couldn't just let him have one thing, my dad asked. I blinked. One thing, I repeated. You mean like the birthday party I paid for the guest list you erased? The cake with his name on it at my event. They said nothing. Or do you mean Lexi? The girl I liked since I was 16. The one I told you about at dinner while you all laughed in my face. That's ancient history, my mom snapped. No, I said, voice rising. It's a pattern. They looked stunned, like I'd accused them of murder. I helped you with bills, I said. Groceries, repairs. I covered your internet every month, and all I got in return was silence while Jaime took whatever he wanted. And you helped him. My dad's voice dropped to a warning tone. You're blowing this out of proportion. Am I asked, or am I just finally calling it what it is? They didn't answer. So I did it for them. You always picked him, I said. Every time, even when it cost me everything. There was a beat of silence. Then my mom's eyes filled with tears, but not guilt. Not remorse. Just discomfort. Like I'd embarrassed her in her own reflection. I stepped back and opened the door. You can leave now, I said. They didn't argue. They just left. Lexi didn't say anything until the door clicked shut behind them. Then she came over, took the ice pack from the counter, pressed it gently back to my cheek, and kissed the bruise. You okay? She asked softly. No, I said, but I'm free. 2 years later, Lexi and I got married. No balloon arches, no fairy lights. Just a quiet ceremony in a little garden with the people who had always shown up without being begged, guilted, or tricked. Friends, not family. Or rather, friends who'd become family. My parents weren't invited. Jaime wasn't even mentioned. I hadn't spoken to any of them since that night in my apartment. And the truth is, I didn't miss them. I never got the money back for the party. The $3 for $60 I spent to throw myself a celebration that got hijacked by people who saw me as nothing more than a resource. But I got Lexi. And honestly, I came out ahead. It took a long time to get here, longer than I'd like to admit. Years of biting my tongue, of swallowing my wants, of playing the good son, the helpful sibling, the one who always picked up the pieces. But somewhere in that empty banquet hall under that arch, I didn't want something cracked open. Not loudly, not with fireworks. Just a quiet split like a seam that had been under pressure for too long. And once it split, I couldn't sew it back together again. I didn't want to. People always talk about forgiveness like it's this noble end goal, like you're supposed to chase it until you collapse from exhaustion. But here's the thing, nobody tells you you don't owe anyone your forgiveness. Not if they've never earned it. Not if they've never even asked for it. I didn't walk away from my family because I hated them. I walked away because staying would have meant hating myself. And that was something I wasn't willing to do anymore. Lexi and I took it slow after that night. We didn't label anything. We didn't rush. We went for walks, ate Thai food on the couch, watched terrible movies, and paused them constantly to argue about plot holes. It was easy. And for once, I didn't feel like I had to earn her attention. She wanted to be there, with me. Not because I was useful, not because I'd fixed her sink or paid for her groceries, just me. The first time she called me home, I nearly cried. We kept our wedding small, no registry, no dance floor. Just a few tables, a few laughs, and a handwritten vow I barely got through without choking up. I spent my life in the background, I told her. You made me feel seen. She squeezed my hand and whispered, you were always visible to me. I've thought a lot about what I would say if Jaime ever tried to come back. If my parents sent another message. If there was some dramatic apology waiting in a dusty inbox. But nothing ever came. And that silence, it told me everything I needed to know. Because love, real love, doesn't need to be begged for. It doesn't have a price tag. It doesn't show up only when it's convenient or when someone needs a favor. It shows up, full stop. So yeah, maybe I didn't get the birthday I imagined. Maybe I didn't get the picture-perfect family moment. But I got something better. I got peace. And I got Lexi. And if you ask me, that's the kind of love that really does win. So now I want to ask you, who are you still trying to earn love from? Who are you chasing? That's never turned around to meet you halfway. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop trying. Walk away, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. You don't have to light yourself on fire to keep others warm. And if you're someone who's ever thrown a party literal or metaphorical and no one came, I hope you know, it doesn't mean you're unworthy. It doesn't mean you don't matter. It just means you invited the wrong people. Next time, make the guest list smaller. Make room for the ones who don't need an engraved invitation to show up for you. Lexi always said something that stuck with me. Some people only come to your table when the feast is ready. The ones who help you cook, keep them. So that's what I've been doing. Keeping the ones who stayed when the music stopped. The ones who saw me when I was sitting alone at that farthest table. The ones who didn't need a spotlight to recognize my worth. To anyone out there who feels invisible, you're not. You never were. You were just standing in the wrong crowd. Move. Find your people. They're out there. probably holding a plate and looking for someone to sit with. So that's my story. What do you think? Did I go too far by walking away? Or did I finally do what I should have done years ago? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want more stories like this about self-respect, quiet revenge, finding your voice, hit subscribe and tap the notification bell. We're building something real here, a space for people who are done being invisible. Because at the end of the day, you don't need a party full of people. You just need the right one to sit beside you. The crazy part is I spent most of my life believing that I was lucky to be in the room at all. That being invited, even as an afterthought, was enough. That if I stayed helpful, if I stayed dependable, if I kept my head down and did what was expected, then maybe I'd get to feel like I mattered. But that's the trap, isn't it? You think loyalty buys you love? That silence buys you peace. That being the one who always says, sure, I'll help, earns you a spot in someone else's story. It doesn't. It just makes you a footnote. And I was tired of being a footnote. It took me a long time to realize that no one's going to give you the kind of love you haven't already given yourself. That if you keep accepting scraps, people will assume that's all you're hungry for. So when I finally walked away from my brother, my parents, the whole toxic family dynamic, I wasn't throwing a tantrum. I was saving myself. And the irony. The second I stopped trying to be enough for people who never valued me, I found someone who did. Lexi. She saw it all. Not just the parts I wanted to show, but the messy, complicated, tired parts too. And she didn't flinch. She didn't try to fix me. She just stayed. And that meant more than any grand gesture ever could. Because real love, healthy love isn't loud. It's consistent. It's showing up with soup when you're sick. It's folding your laundry because you forgot again. It's asking, how are you, and actually waiting for the real answer. It's a hoodie on cold mornings, takeout on hard days, and sitting in silence when the words are too heavy to carry. Lexi gave me all of that, and I gave it back every day. That's not to say it was perfect. We argued. We misread each other sometimes. There were days when she needed space and I didn't understand, and days when I shut down and she didn't push. But the difference? We were both trying. That's all I ever wanted growing up. For someone to try, to meet me halfway. Not just show up when they needed something. Not just call when the lights went out or the rent was late or someone forgot to bring dessert to the family gathering. Just show up. Lexi did, even when it was uncomfortable. Even when it meant facing things she didn't want to see, like what my family really was beneath the surface. There was one night, maybe 8 months into our relationship, when I woke up from a nightmare. I don't remember what it was about exactly. Probably some twisted version of that birthday party. The cake, the empty room, Jaime laughing, my mom humming while everything collapsed behind her. I sat up in bed, gasping, shaking like I'd just come up from underwater. Lexi didn't ask questions. She didn't tell me it was just a dream. She just sat with me, held my hand, and said, you're not there anymore. Sometimes that's all you need. Someone to remind you that you made it out. That the fire you walked through didn't burn you beyond recognition. It just reshaped you. By the time we started talking about marriage, we already knew what kind of wedding we didn't want. No big guest list, no family drama, no speeches from people who'd never taken the time to know us. Just a garden, a sunset, a few friends, and vows we wrote ourselves. Mine was short, simple. I promise to never let you feel the way I did. Invisible, unheard, alone. You're home to me, and I will never stop choosing you. She cried. So did I. And for the first time in a long time, those tears felt like release, not grief. Afterward, we didn't have a fancy honeymoon. We drove up the coast, stayed in a cabin that smelled like cedar and old books, and spent 4 days doing nothing except eating, napping, and dancing barefoot in the kitchen. It was perfect. Not because it looked good on Instagram, but because it felt like peace. And I know there will be people probably in the comments who say, I should have forgiven my family, who think I took things too far by cutting them off completely. But let me ask you this. If someone set fire to your house, would you keep inviting them over? If every time you opened the door, they walked in with a lighter and a smile, how many times would you let it happen before you changed the locks? Forgiveness isn't forgetting, and it's not a free pass. Sometimes forgiveness looks like closing the door and walking away. It looks like saying, I love you, but I love me too. And if you've never done that, if you're still stuck in a cycle of giving and giving and giving, hoping one day they'll see you, I hope this is your sign to stop. You deserve more than being someone's backup plan. You deserve more than being the dependable one in a family that only remembers you exist when the fridge is empty or the lights go out. You deserve a party where people come for you. And if they don't, throw your own damn party. Invite the people who never needed to be convinced to love you. Forget the rest. It's strange how people only start noticing your boundaries once you finally enforce them. The first few months after I cut off contact were quiet, almost peaceful. Then came the messages. From my mom, we're still family. You'll regret burning bridges. From my dad, you're being dramatic. This isn't how adults handle things. Even one from Jaime, which felt like it was written by someone who hadn't even tried to understand what happened. You got what you wanted. Congrats. You win. But don't act like you didn't destroy a family in the process. That one made me laugh in a bitter sort of way. Because if not answering their calls, not paying their bills, and not showing up to carry more emotional weight was considered destroying the family, then maybe the foundation was already cracked to begin with. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't pettiness. It was clarity. I had finally realized that being loyal to dysfunction isn't noble, it's self-harm in disguise. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't interested in bleeding for people who'd never even noticed I was cut. There were times, sure, when the silence got heavy, when holidays rolled around and I didn't get the usual obligatory Merry Christmas group text, when I didn't get an invite to Thanksgiving dinner, when birthdays passed with no acknowledgement. But strangely, it didn't sting like I expected. It just confirmed what I already knew. They were never reaching out for me. They were reaching out for access, for control, for obligation. And once I stopped playing my part in that script, they didn't know what to do, so they disappeared. It's easy to think you're needed when you're useful. But the second you stop being useful, that's when the truth shows up. Lexi and I talked about it a lot, the guilt, the second guessing, that voice in the back of your head whispering, what if you're the problem? But she never fed that voice. She helped me turn down the volume. People who love you don't make you feel replaceable, she said one night while we were sitting on the floor eating Chinese food straight from the containers. And they definitely don't use your party to celebrate someone else. We laughed, but the truth was loud. And healing for me didn't come in big waves, it came in small moments. The first time I turned down a call without guilt. The first time I saw a family photo online and didn't feel a twist in my stomach. The first time I said no and didn't follow it up with an apology or an explanation. Healing was choosing myself over and over again, especially on the days when the old version of me would have folded back down, stayed quiet. And the more I chose myself, the more I realized how much of my life I'd spent trying to be enough for people who didn't know how to love me back. Lexi loved me back. Not just in the easy ways, but in the hard ones too. Like when I got laid off 6 months into our marriage and I felt that old panic rise in my chest, that fear that if I wasn't producing, if I wasn't useful, I wouldn't be worth keeping. But she didn't flinch. She sat beside me, held my hand, and said, "You don't have to earn your right to be here." I think that was the moment I realized I was finally safe. Not just in our home, but in my life. I didn't have to perform to be loved. And the weight that lifted. It made me wonder how I ever carried it for so long. For anyone out there still stuck in that place, still wondering why their best efforts never feel like enough, I hope this story reaches you. I hope it cracks something open in you the way that cake did for me. Because sometimes the betrayal isn't loud. Sometimes it comes in the form of a gold-iced cake at your own birthday party. Sometimes it's the smile your mom gives you while your brother kisses his girlfriend in front of a backdrop you paid for. Sometimes it's silence. But however it shows up, don't ignore it. Don't tell yourself you're being sensitive. Don't shrink to make room for people who take up too much space in your life. You are allowed to be the main character in your own story. You are allowed to throw a party and expect people to come for you. And if they don't, that's on them, not you. You're not too much. You're not unlovable. You're just in the wrong room. Find the one where people don't ask you to prove your worth before they hand you a plate. Find the ones who text you just to say they miss you. The ones who celebrate you when there's nothing in it for them. The ones who say, "What can I bring?" when you invite them over, not who else is going. Those are your people. And if you haven't found them yet, don't give up. They're out there. Maybe they're sitting at their own party wondering why no one showed up. Maybe they're scrolling through stories like this one, hoping for a sign that they're not alone. So here it is. You're not alone, and you're not invisible. Not anymore. I used to think healing was a destination. That one day I'd wake up fully over it all. No flashbacks to that night. No flinching when someone says family is everything. No sting when I walk past birthday cards in the grocery store. But healing doesn't come with a finish line. It doesn't hand you a trophy and a congrats, you're free now banner. It comes slowly, in pieces. It looks like walking past a group photo of your family and not stopping to zoom in. It sounds like realizing you haven't thought about them in weeks and not feeling guilty about that. It feels like peace. Not the loud kind, not fireworks. Not a grand, "I'm doing so much better without you" speech. Just quiet. Like waking up and realizing you finally slept through the night. Like drinking your morning coffee and not needing to rehearse imaginary arguments in your head. Like sitting across from someone who looks at you like you're here, present, seen, valued, and realizing you don't miss the people who never did. Lexi and I built our own traditions after we got married. They're small, nothing flashy. Sunday pancakes, weekly walks with no phones, a jar on the kitchen counter labeled wins where we write down the good stuff, big or small. Firsts, breakthroughs, even just surviving a long week. We filled that jar faster than either of us expected. It became our reminder we're still here, we're still moving forward. Even on days that feel like molasses. She once put a note in there that just said you didn't flinch when someone brought up "Hi me" today. And it made me pause. Because she noticed. Not in a way that made it about her. Not in a "look how supportive I am" way. She just saw it. Saw me. That invisible thread between then and now. The one I thought I'd cut clean, but still felt sometimes when the wind shifted just right. Lexi helped me trace that thread without judgment. She didn't yank it or tie it into a new knot. She just held it with me gently until it stopped feeling like a noose. Somewhere along the way, we started seeing a couples therapist, not because anything was wrong, but because we both wanted to keep growing. Keep unpacking things before they festered. One session, our therapist asked me what I thought the biggest turning point in my life was. I didn't even have to think. "That party," I said. The therapist nodded. "What changed for you that night?" And I said I stopped begging people to love me. She smiled. "That's not small." No, it wasn't. It was seismic. Because for the longest time, love had felt conditional, transactional, like a loyalty card. Buy 10 favors, get one hug free. That night, watching my mom hum beside a cake with my brother's name on it at my party, something inside me stopped hoping. And oddly, it wasn't devastating. It was liberating. It was the first time I understood that I could want love and still walk away from the version that hurt. And walking away, that was the first real act of love I ever gave myself. It didn't mean I stopped caring overnight. I still had moments, usually around the holidays, where I'd wonder if they thought about me, if they missed me, if they ever looked at photos from that party and felt a flicker of guilt. But those moments got shorter and less sharp. Eventually, they started to feel like echoes, faint reminders of something I used to believe was my fault. They weren't. None of it was. And if no one's told you this yet, if you're carrying the weight of someone else's selfishness and wondering why it's so heavy, it's not because you're weak. It's because it was never yours to carry. Let that sink in. You didn't cause it. You didn't deserve it. You didn't ask for it. And you sure as hell don't have to keep holding it. Lexi helped me learn how to set things down, how to stop trying to fix what I never broke, how to stop offering grace to people who wouldn't even show up with basic respect. That's the thing about people like my family. They only start crying, "We're family," when you set boundaries. When you stop giving, when you stop playing the role they cast you in without your consent. But the truth is, being family doesn't give anyone the right to disrespect you. It doesn't give them an all access pass to your time, your energy, your peace. Blood might be thicker than water, but peace is thicker than guilt. And I chose peace. Every day I keep choosing it. That's not to say I don't get tempted to look back sometimes, to see if anything's changed, if they've grown, reflected, reached out with something real. But growth doesn't always come with closure. Sometimes you never get the apology. Sometimes they never admit what they did. And sometimes the healing isn't about waiting for them to make it right. It's about making yourself right with or without them. I still have the receipts from that party, the invoices, the texts, the messages that confirmed what they did. I kept them for a long time. Not because I needed proof, but because I wanted to remember that I didn't imagine it, that I wasn't crazy or dramatic or overly sensitive. But one day I opened that folder, scrolled through it all, and felt nothing. No anger, no heartbreak, just indifference. So I deleted it, every last file, because the best proof of growth is no longer needing evidence. Deleting that folder felt like closing the final chapter on a book I didn't write, but had been forced to read over and over again. I didn't need it anymore. Not to remember what happened, not to defend myself, not even to prove a point. Because the most powerful kind of healing is when you no longer feel the need to prove anything. Not your pain, not your worth, not your side of the story. You just know it, deep in your bones, and that's enough. Lexi and I were sitting on the balcony the evening I deleted those files. The sky was painted with that kind of soft orange that only lasts 10 minutes before the sun dips out of sight. She looked over and said, "You okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I think I finally am." I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't sad. I wasn't pretending to be over it while secretly carrying that bitterness like a second skin. I was just here, alive, loved, safe. And maybe that's all I ever really wanted. For a long time, I thought closure meant confrontation. The dramatic showdown, the final conversation where everyone finally gets it, finally says the words you've been needing to hear. But that never came. And eventually I stopped needing it too. Closure isn't something they give you. It's something you decide you're done waiting for. I decided I was done. Done waiting to be understood by people who never tried to understand me. Done hoping they'd wake up one day with guilt in their chests and a phone in their hand. Done checking the rearview mirror while the road ahead kept calling. One of the most surprising parts of cutting ties was how much space it created for joy, for laughter, for new traditions, for new people. Our friend group became our family. We had Sunday dinners, movie nights, a text chain that never stopped buzzing with dumb memes and anyone want to grab tacos messages. And none of it came with guilt. None of it came with strings attached. No one was keeping score. They just showed up over and over again. And if I ever got quiet or distant, someone always noticed not to call me out, but to call me in. "Hey, you okay?" That question used to terrify me. Now it feels like home because it means someone sees you, not as a helper, not as a fixer, not as a tool, as a person. That was the shift. I stopped trying to be useful and started allowing myself to be known. I stopped over-explaining. I stopped offering disclaimers for my boundaries. I stopped asking myself if I was being too much or too sensitive or too selfish. I just started being honest. And for the first time in my life, people didn't walk away when I did. They leaned in. And that changed everything. A few months after our wedding, Lexi and I sat down and made a list of everything we wanted to let go of. We called it our emotional garage sale. Some of it was small. The habit of saying sorry when we weren't actually sorry. The instinct to deflect compliments. The reflex to smile when we wanted to scream. And some of it was heavier. The pressure to fix things we didn't break. The guilt that crept in when we said no. The belief that love is something you have to earn with suffering. We burned the list in a fire pit that night. Watched the ashes rise like tiny ghosts we no longer owed anything to. And when the flames died down, I felt lighter. Not fixed, not finished, but lighter. And that was enough. I still think about that birthday sometimes. Not with pain, just a curiosity. Like, who would I be if it hadn't happened? Would I have ever drawn the line? Would I have ever stopped being the background character in my own life? Probably not. That party was supposed to be a celebration. Instead, it became a mirror. It showed me everything I didn't want to see. How little I was valued. How disposable I was in a family that always made room for Jaime's dreams, but never mine. How the people I kept trying to please had never truly chosen me. And that clarity, it was the best gift I never asked for. Because without that moment, without the cake, the betrayal, the silence, I don't know if I ever would have had the courage to change. Sometimes rock bottom is a banquet hall with 82 empty chairs and a gold-iced reminder that love for some people comes with conditions. But sometimes that's exactly what you need. To look around and realize the room isn't empty because you failed. It's empty because you finally stopped inviting people who never deserved a seat. I used to think that being good meant being quiet, being accommodating, being the helper, the peacemaker, the one who didn't make a fuss, who cleaned up the messes and kept the peace no matter how much it cost me. But all that ever got me was a front row seat to everyone else's joy while I stood quietly in the wings. That birthday party, the one that got hijacked by fairy lights and a cake with someone else's name on it, wasn't just the end of an event. It was the end of that version of me. The version who thought being useful was the same as being loved. The version who waited for validation like it was dessert after a meal I didn't get to enjoy. The version who believed that maybe, just maybe, if he worked hard enough, they'd finally look at him like he mattered. But I don't believe in that version anymore. I don't live in that story. I burned that script and started writing a new one. And in this one, I'm not just a supporting character in other people's highlight reels. I'm the one setting the table and choosing who gets a seat. Lexi was the first person who looked at me and didn't see a tool, or a helper, or a stepping stone to someone else's spotlight. She saw me flawed, complicated, still untangling years of silence and said, "I'll stay." And she did. Through the awkward beginnings, through the hard conversations, through the grief I didn't know I was carrying. She stayed. And you know what? So did I. I didn't run. I didn't shrink myself. I didn't fold into some quiet, palatable version just to keep the peace. I chose myself again and again. And that has made all the difference. Sometimes we wait for someone else to save us, to see us, to choose us. But the truth? No one's coming. You have to choose yourself first. That's the real revolution. Not screaming, not slamming doors, not getting the last word, but walking away, quietly, fully, finally, and meaning it. I don't know where you are in your story. Maybe you're still sitting in that empty room, staring at your own version of a hijacked celebration. Maybe you're just starting to realize the people you've been bending over backwards for would never do the same for you. Or maybe you've already walked away and now you're wondering if you did the right thing. Here's your answer. You did. Because self-respect isn't selfish. Boundaries aren't cruelty. Distance is sometimes the kindest thing you can offer to yourself and to the people who only knew how to love a version of you that didn't speak up. You are not required to keep bleeding for people just because they handed you a Band-Aid once. You are not a service. You are not an extra. You are not backup. You're a full person with needs and feelings and limits. And anyone who makes you feel like that's too much is asking for less than you were made to be. I didn't get closure from my parents. I didn't get an apology from my brother. I didn't get reimbursed for the party. But I got Lexi. I got my own peace. And I got the freedom that comes with finally believing I'm enough even when no one's clapping. So yeah, I'd say I came out ahead. Now I want to ask you something. Have you ever thrown a party for people who never showed up? Have you ever built something from scratch? Your trust, your support, your love, only to watch it be used for someone else's celebration? And if so, what did you do? Did you yell? Did you cry? Or did you sit at the farthest table in the room, breathing in the scent of buffet chicken and watered down punch, and feel something deep inside you finally split open? Because if you've been there, if you felt that, that moment isn't weakness. It's awakening. It's the start of everything. So to everyone who's ever been overlooked, underestimated, or used, I see you. I was you. And you don't have to stay in that story 1 minute longer. You can write a new one. One where you don't chase people. One where your love isn't used as currency. One where your boundaries are gates, not walls, keeping the wrong ones out and letting the right ones in. It starts small, with one no, with one skipped call, with one decision to stop proving your worth to people who already made up their minds. And then slowly a life forms around you, a life that fits, that feels like yours. A quiet dinner with someone who really listens. A morning where your chest isn't heavy. A birthday that actually belongs to you. Not because it's perfect, but because it's true. So if you made it this far, thank you. Thank you for listening to my story, for sitting with it, for maybe seeing a piece of yourself inside it. If it helped you, let me know in the comments. If you've got a story like this, share it. You never know who needs to hear that they're not alone. And if you haven't already subscribed, this channel isn't just stories, it's a table. And there's a seat here with your name on it. No RSVP required.